Okay, on this episode of our Yamaha 750 Special Cafe Racer build, we're going to tackle the carburetors. Like I suspected, the reason it's not running is because of ethanol, fuel, or just general bad fuel buildup. You can see this varnish in there. And any other time you should just be able to push this slide up and have the spring push it back down. We'll push that up. Look how slow that comes down. That one's not even coming down. And let's see if we can move this one. Yep, that one's up there too, stuck. So what we're going to do is, like I said, we're not going to jet these yet. We're going to go in and clean those up because we've got the factory pipe still on here. We want to get this running back to factory specs or close to it without an air box. And then we can start making modifications once we know that it's a good running bike to as close to factory specs as we can get it. So the next thing we're going to do is move in and start taking these float bowls off and looking at the jets, the slide springs, and start getting those cleaned up. So let's start doing that now. Okay, we moved our carburetors into our workbench, and we'll start first with a float bowl, and just have 4 screws here. Now this, get this out of the way. This carburetor has some nice meaty screws on it, so those should be, well, I say should be, easy to come loose. And they're wanting to be, there we go. Some screws in these carburetors are super thin. They're, especially on the newer bikes, they're really hard to break loose. You might want to go to Harbor Freight or somewhere and get an inexpensive impact screw remover, and that this thing you set down on the screw there and then hit it with a hammer and it comes out. That first little jolt kind of breaks it loose. So we're going to take this first float bowl off to kind of show you what we're looking on the inside, and then there's no sense in boring you guys to look, watch me take the rest of the bottom of these off. But we're going to have to take this connector piece off there. Shouldn't have to. Well, didn't want to have to do that, but I'm going to have to take this where it connects all the carburetors together. Well, we can take this one off and leave the bottom braces. So let me go get the tool I need for that. Okie doke, we took our trusty 10mm, loosened this brace bar there till we can get this float bowl bottom off. Just need to move it back a little bit there and work it out. Look at that. And look at that. I mean, it's like tacky. It's terrible. That is really gummed up in there. So we're going to take all these float bowls off first. And what we're going to do is I'm going to take an inconspicuous spot here on this float bowl and mark a little number on it so I will know which side is which, because we don't want to mess up our jets from either side. That float is completely seized. It's not moving anywhere. Seal looks good. We're going to have to get all that cleaned up, and then we'll flip it over and we'll look at those slides. And we'll look at that next. I'm going to leave that off because we're going to, well, let me put it on there in case I don't want to mess up the float bowl or the float. So now I'm going to flip this over and we'll take this slide and spring off the other side and see what kind of garment mess we've got on that side. Okay, we've got our, there was a bracket right here, which was a support for our throttle cable. Now, when you move this off, it will be under pressure. There is a spring on the inside. That looks okay. And then we've got a needle. I want to pull that out. Yeah, look at that. That is really tarred up there. Just, that is all over. That there's no way that that needle can move freely up and down in there. So we need to clean that. And you'll see all kinds of different ways to clean these. You'll see people that take the comes in a gallon jug where you can just put the stuff down in it and it eats it off. And then you see people that do the sonic parts cleaner, and some people just spray carb cleaner down in there. And guess what? All three of them are right, because you need to use all three. There are certain parts you don't want to come in contact with that harsh chemical in the gallon jugs, but other parts like these carbs, those float bowls and stuff, it's just not going to come out without using anything else. So we'll start taking these apart and make sure we line up and number each one so we can keep our parts straight, especially for our jets. So I'm going to go ahead and take this complete carburetor apart and lay out the parts, and that'll be the next thing we'll look at. All right, I moved outside so we can spray some carb cleaner. This is your pin, your float bowl. This one is, I don't want to move it, it's stuck. This one is stuck, but this one is freed up. Now what we want to do is we want to spray some carburetor cleaner around all these parts and kind of get some of that gum off of it before we try to, you know, move this float bowl and wind up bending it and messing it up on the float height there with the needle. So let's get all that sprayed around. I already took these two gaskets off. I'll take this gasket off and get all that sprayed around and get it cleaned up as much as we can before we start taking these parts out that we need to soak and have them cleaned. Okie dokie, we've got our float bowls and everything that soaked overnight in our chem dip. You can see there that there's still some gunk up in there, but that's all broken loose, and that's why I say that it's good to use several different methods. Now that all that junk is broke loose on that, we're going to move it over to our sonic washer with our mix of regular water and the non-abrasive, I think is what it's the green stuff, I forget what it's called, but it won't etch the pot metal and stuff that the carburetors are made out of. So let's move that over now to that sonic washer and get these ready to go. Okay, we've got all our parts cleaned up, ready to reassemble. You can see that jet right there is brand new. The other jet was so damaged we had to drill it out to get it out. Those things are let me see if I can find it here for you. They're brass and very easy to damage. I don't know if it's going to focus on that or not. See if I can get it over here where maybe the white of the door will do it. There we go. If you can see how that's chipped off from the screwdriver. And the best way to do that is find you a drill bit that's just a little bit bigger than that hole, drill down in it, and work it back out there. You can see we took a lot of time to make sure we didn't damage the threads, but it's still a 42.5 because we're going to put this back together to factory specifications just to make sure our bike runs. and then later on we will take this carburetor apart, either Cerakote it or powder coat it, and polish these float bowls and caps, and make it look nice to get started. So let's get this carburetor put back together and test this bike. Okay, forgot to mention a very important item here. We got our carburetors mounted, and we're going to test run, but before you do, you need to change oil, because if you've had carburetor problems, there's a chance that fuel could have gotten backed down into your oil, thinned out your oil, and you don't want to go all this work and then run a bike on thinned oil and ruin it. So make sure you get that oil changed. You'll probably need to do it a couple more times if you're going to be working on these carbs. You just want to make sure of that. Okie dokie, we've got our carburetors back on. No tank, but we've poured enough fuel down in our lines there and got them lined up, so maybe we'll have enough in there to run it for just a bit. Got a little bit of choke pulled out. Got it in neutral. Oh, I got to turn it on here. Good deal. Let's kill this. Alrighty. Okay, so we know that we've got a good running bike. We've cleaned out the carburetors, got all that gunk out of them, and like I said, we just rebuilt them just enough to where we could test the bike and see if it was going to be worth getting in any more than what it is. You never want to, you know, spend a bunch of money on something and it have a something major wrong with it. But sounds good. So now that's our carburetors. Thank you guys so much for watching. Subscribe, give me a thumbs up, hit that notification bell so you know when we're posting another video, and follow us along on this I say a lot, there we go again, Cafe Racer build. Now this next video we'll start the point of no return items, like cutting the frame, relocating our wiring and all that stuff to clean that frame up. So we know we got a good running motor, and we've got a nice bike. We didn't have a whole lot of money into it, and we can start putting some of these parts and sell them out. So thank you guys so much for watching.